Reanimate multiple creatures is exactly what Tethmos High Priest does with his heroic ability, and other Pauper cards like Sighted Wayfinder are perfect to set up this combo. From there, you can use Thrill of the Hunt, Sentinel's Eyes, and Homestead Courage from your hand or your graveyard to trigger Tethmos ability and amass a big army, Recommission to return your creatures to the battlefield, Prismatic Strands to prevent your damage, and Epic Confrontation to remove pesky creatures are some other cards that align very well in a deck built around Tethmos High Priest to exploit its full potential. And of course, Basilisk Gate is a must-have to punish your opponents. Let's see how it does in a Pauper League. My first match is against, as you guessed, a burn deck. The main plan is to use a Prowler to dig for lands and eventually play Tethmos High Priest. Unfortunately, we didn't find any lands, but we did hit a Prismatic Strands and a Sacred Cat, which we could embalm and use to kill one of their Monastery Sisters with Epic Confrontation and pass the turn. They attack and we proceed with our plan. While they added another creature to the board, we can now play our High Priest with Prismatic Strands backup in case they try to remove it. They made a mistake by attacking and trying to get rid of the cat in combat. I could simply use my Strands to save it and prevent the combat damage. Now, on my turn, the real fun began, as I was able to reanimate the Prowler by targeting the Tethmos High Priest. The Prowler fit our graveyard and gave me more targets to reanimate and cards to use to target the heroic cat. This sequence is the core engine of the deck, and you'll see it in action throughout the rest of the video. With many options, I decided to return a Satyr Wayfinder to hit a land drop and incidentally attack my opponent for 4. They cast a Reckless Impulse and attack with 2 of their creatures. Since risking my core engine wasn't worth it, I decided to chump block, especially since Satyr could do more work in the graveyard than on the battlefield. I returned the Satyr to the battlefield and attacked them for 7, keeping Prismatic Strands mana up. They took the damage and realized how bad their position was, so they scooped. After sideboarding, adding some copies of the Tamiyo Safekeeping should help to protect my most important creatures. We also added the Freewind Falcon and Crimson Acolyte to slow them down. As expected, they tried to remove my Sacred Cat right away, so I made it indestructible. I pumped the cat, attacked for 4, and realized that leaving Thrill of the Hunt wouldn't save the cat from a lightning bolt, so I played a Lunar Veteran instead. They cast a Synthesizer on their turn and got rid of my cats as I anticipated. To prevent excessive damage, I decided to chump block with the Satyr Wayfinder. I found a second one that revealed a land and also played a Banshwood Prowler to keep filling my graveyard. Now, with Prismatic Strands up, they will have a hard time getting through, at least for this turn, so they passed back. I drew another Basilisk Gate and decided to pump the Prowler to get some damage in. They tried to kill it with a lightning bolt and I quickly cast a Thrill of the Hunt from my graveyard to save it. However, they cast a second lightning bolt to deal with it. Since another Thrill of the Hunt wouldn't be enough, I decided to use Prismatic Strands to ensure my creature survives. After the dust settled, I was planning to pump the Homestead Courage on the Prowler to give it a vigilance, but they decided to scoop. To start next round, we were on the play, and I decided to keep an amazing hand because we had all the pieces we needed to set up our combo. In typical blue fashion, they began with a turn 1 Delver, but I had a Journey to Nowhere, so I didn't need to worry about it anymore. They played a main phase Metal Note and passed. So unless they had a Force Spike, I was almost guaranteed to resolve a Wayfinder and get another land in hand. They set up their next thrust by playing a Ponder into a Delver with nearly a 100% chance of flipping. Now, I had to decide whether to play the Tethmos High Priest or play around Force Spike, and cast a Satyr Wayfinder instead. I chose the latter, got my land, and the plan for the next turn was to play the backside of the Lunar Veteran and use Thrill of the Hunt to ambush the Flip Delver. To protect our creatures from snap, I found it valuable to play the Benevolent Bodyguard and, if it got countered, the High Priest could bring it back at any time. Surprisingly, they didn't flip the Delver, but they found a Tolerant Terror instead, which wasn't as problematic since we had Prismatic Strands anyway. The plan now was to find a Basilisk Gate to start getting through with our 1/1s, so I decided to play with the Prowler with no luck. More importantly, I accidentally milled 2 other High Priests, which meant I only had 1 more in the library if the one I had in hand got countered. I played my Spirit and passed the turn, and their Delver refused to flip. It was an awkward spot for both of us because if they attacked with the Serpent, I could swing back and try to raise them, but they didn't care about this and attack anyways, indicating they might have a second big creature in their hand. This turned out to be the case. I played a Sacred Cat, hit for 1 in the air and passed the turn. They finally flipped the Delver, and with Lorien Reveal they drew 3 more cards but tap out for their most part. They also attack, and I decided there was no risk in trying to trade for the Serpent while preventing the damage with my Strands in the graveyard, so I was happy to make that trade. After the sell, it was our time to go off with the High Priest combo. While we didn't have many creatures in the graveyard, I will try to add more thanks to the Prowler. It might have not been very exciting, but at least I could attack for 2 against a Delver that wasn't willing to trade with a 2-2. What's cool about having the bodyguard in play is that it can protect any creature on the board and bring it back with the High Priest ability at any time, thanks to Thrill of the Hunt in the graveyard. I tried to get back into the game by drawing multiple cards, but it was just a matter of time until Windfall or Basilisk Gate, and could start creating tons of damage. In the meantime, I kept bashing for 2 in the air. Finally, I found a Prowler that revealed a Wayfinder, which unfortunately did not reveal a Basilisk Gate, despite looking at more than half of my deck. Still, I pawned my Phantom and decided to attack with it. They block, and I decided to use Thrill of the Hunt to bait the counterspell. However, they tried to use a Snap, but didn't notice the bodyguard on the field, which happily sacrificed itself to give protection to my flyer. They used a second Snap trying to save the Delver, but I quickly returned the bodyguard to the field and gave protection to blue to my creature while they were tapped out. Post-combat, I decided to return the bodyguard again and an Embalmed Cat to use my mana in the most efficient way. After a few more turns, this was GG. There wasn't much we could change post-sideboard, but I decided to bring in a couple of Declaimers in case they ran Relic of Reanimator. This hand was also impressive, and predictably, they had a turn 1 Delver again. Unlike the last time, they managed to flip it thanks to Brainstorm. I play my creature and pass the turn, searching for the opportunity to resolve the cat and, more importantly, to fill my graveyard. They attack in the air, but once again they tap out, so I decided to take my chances and try to resolve my win condition, hoping they didn't have snaps for it. As expected, they attacked for 6 in the air and added another creature to the board. The Delvers alone wouldn't be enough to kill me next turn, and I could always jump block the Serpent. The plan now was to fill the graveyard to access more plays for future turns. I sacrificed the Prowler, and they added another big creature, seemingly holding a counterspell. The Prowler revealed a bunch of good cards. My plan now was to get rid of one of those Delvers with the Thrill of the Hunt and potentially deal with one of the other big creatures using Prismatic Strands. This plan could fail if they had 2 counterspells, but I need to make bold moves to get back into the game. They attack with everything and I proceed with my plan. As it turns out, they didn't have a counter to stop this, and I was able to take down 2 of their best creatures, reducing their board by half. While their Murmuring Misting was a long-term problem, I could now untap and execute my plan with the cat. Unlike last time, I found 3 Basilisk Gates, and now I could start dealing serious damage to them in the near future. My opponent wasn't having a good day and played another 5/5 before passing. Meanwhile, I found a Benevolent Bodyguard by milling myself a bit more, which will force some chump blocks on my opponent's end. After a few more turns, I eventually won the game. While this deck can perform very well against most of the meta decks, it can be a little triggered to pilot, and games tend to be long, often leading to board stalls, as was the case against this mono-white deck in round 4. The issue against white decks is that they can usually run Journey to Nowhere to deal with or win condition, so we need to find our Benevolent Bodyguard to stay safe. However, what can give us an edge in this mid-game are the Basilisk Gates, as they can push through our opponent's defenses and maintain the pressure. But as you can see, it gets quite challenging to navigate crowded boards unless you have a Benevolent Bodyguard to protect your creatures and turn the tide. Game number 2 mirror our previous one, with the difference being that our Scarce-Shot Archers play a significant role in dealing with their tokens. Thanks to Lunar Veteran, we could buy ourselves some time by gaining life here and there. With our core engine setup, we returned to the Benevolent Bodyguard to ensure the cat will survive, and it was only a matter of time until we get our hands on a Basilisk Gate to seal the game. However, things could get grindy easily, especially if they found their graveyard head to disrupt our recursion strategy. This often led to massive board stalls, and our only way to break through was with our one and only flyer. Surprisingly, they overlooked the keywords on the archers and decided to attack with the core Skyfisher, so I proceeded to clear the board, pump by Phantom twice, and finish the league after facing another terror deck, losing in the finals to Golgari Gardens with a solid 4-1 run.